Okay, let me call the meeting to order of the Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission, noting that all members are present except the chair, Matt Capers, who is excused. First item is item B, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve of the agenda and the minutes, which would be item C?
So moved.
Second.
Sue, been moved and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Regular business, item number 1, report by the Police Department of 2019 second quarter injury, serious injury and fatality crashes. Lieutenant?
I am pleased to report that for the second quarter of 2019, there were no fatalities and no serious injury accidents that required accident reconstruction to be called off.
Great. Do you have to take a motion to accept that?
Yeah, receive and place on file will be recommended.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Second item is a request by Alderman Weary to establish a 4-way stop condition at the intersection of Shirley and Locust Streets. Dave?
I'll make a recommendation on items 2 and 3 to postpone for 1 month based off the request of the Alder.
Is there a motion to postpone 2 and 3 for 1 month?
Motion to postpone.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item number 4, consideration of possible action. Request by Alderman Stevens, where that is, on behalf of TNT Crest to remove the parking on the east side of Elizabeth Street between Morrow Street and Elm Street. Alder, do you want to speak to that first?
Or do you want to, Dave?
Dave?
I guess why don't you explain the situation, then I can expound on it by explaining the existing zones.
Sure. So, can you blow that up?
Do you want the street view of it, or do you
Yeah,
want it just
street.
closer? Street view?
Where's that driveway? So currently, there's a no parking zone
Right.
right there. TNT, the manager at TNT Gross has asked that no parking zone to be moved further down past their driveway. You can see where all those cars are parked right now. That is, the view to pull out of that parking lot is hard because of all those cars in there. So he wants to go right about there.
Are those his employees?
Yes,
Is there other parking for them?
yes. There's a parking lot on the back side where they're supposed to be parking.
Oh, okay. Dave, you have any comments?
I'll explain what we have here. I think it's already been noted that this sign right here defines the northern limit of a no parking here to corner zone. So this is Morrow Street right here. And so that's why I don't see anyone parked here, because it's a no parking here corner. So where you see these cars parked right now in this image is basically it's unrestricted parking. So there's no time limits or anything like that. It's just pretty much a free-for-all during the day. Now what you see on this utility pole, the bottom sign actually is a 2-hour 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday sign with a left arrow. So that's why you don't see anyone parked north of that pole, because I'm presuming that most of those people are there for longer than 2 hours. It's, as we had heard from the Alder, that it's employees actually of TNT Crust that are parking there. So I know that he and I have had some discussions briefly about the situation here. And I understand that the request is to actually get rid of this parking here. So there's really a couple different ways you can do that. I think the first that's been somewhat brought up at this point in time would be simply to take this sign right here, this no parking here to corner, and move it north, let's say up to this point. And that would effectively get those cars out of there, because it becomes a no parking zone all the time. The other option, which is actually what was there before, I looked back into the history of this, and it was February of 2014, so a little over 5 years ago, when this very item came to Traffic Commission. It's my understanding through conversation that the management has changed, actually reverted back to what it was a while ago. So it's my understanding that what we have there today and why that was changed in 2014 was probably because of the new management at the time. And they wanted to allow their employees to park on the street. But as we know now, management has changed, and they want basically the parking either restored how it used to be, or basically effectively get rid of those parkers and then forcing them to go park in the lot. So, like I said, this is really one of two ways to do it. A would be to move that no parking sign to underneath where that 2-hour sign is, or you could actually move the 2-hour sign and put it where the no parking here at the corner is, which is what it used to be.
Do you have a preference?
I've always been more of a fan of less restriction the better, because at least what that does is after hours, say if the neighbors have a party or something like that, and there's a lot of people attending, it gives them the option to park across the street. If we go no parking all the time, then they're pretty much limited to their side of the street during special events. And 2-hour zones, this is no different than like around schools, some employers. Well, actually, this one right here, that the 2-hour seems to work, because otherwise, every 2 hours, these employees got to go out and move their cars, and, it just becomes more of a nuisance for the employee themselves, and they just say, well, heck with that, I'm just going to go park in the lot. So I think at the end of the day, you will accomplish the same goal with either option.
Okay.
I make
Alder?
a motion to go to 2-hour parking for that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 5, consideration possible action by request of Alderman Stevens to have a traffic study done for University Avenue within the University corridor. The study should include the area of Dance and University intersection, Peters and University intersection, Clements and University intersection, along with University Way and University Avenue intersection. The study should include the traffic patterns between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Alder Stevens, would you like to comment?
Sure. Dave? He knows the history on this one.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, no, many of you know I was involved with the Festival Foods development and the traffic impact analysis that was created for that development. Actually, the TIA, as we call it, was prepared by a consultant that was hired by the Festival Foods owners, but reviewed by city staff. Recommendations were made, and for the most part, a majority of the recommendations were adopted and implemented. So what you see out there, as many of you remember, in that area was somewhat blighted, and there was old retail where they couldn't really hold any businesses and things, and there was some significant changes like the closure of Fred Street from University, and the extension of what really is Ruth Street, but it's called Clement because of the way it actually curves around into the neighborhood. What happened, and as part of that whole process and discussion, the neighbors in the neighborhood to the south and to the west of the Festival Foods development and the Quick Trip now had some concerns about traffic in the neighborhood as being cut through, speeding, etc. on Peters Street. Now, Peters Street is would be 2 blocks west and parallel of Clement Street. And
Do you have a map of that?
absolutely, yep.
And the reason why this is being brought forward is to see if there's been an increase in traffic since the last study.
Okay. So to continue on my last statements, Peters is actually here. It's actually 3. I thought it was 2. So this is Peters, and Fred Street, in essence, was dead-ended here, and it goes on to, I believe, is it Vanderbrack?
I think it is.
Which basically loops around then to Ruth. So you really kind of have a circle drive through here via Fred and Ruth Street. Clement Street now comes over to Ruth Street and then bends over and ties in perpendicular to Sturgeon Bay Road or Highway 54. So getting back to the TIA, one of the results and recommendations that implemented as part of that TIA was the installation of speed humps on Peters. So there is a set of them, so a pair. So you got one approximately in this location and one approximately here. We basically split the street in thirds, and right on those spots is right really where we put those humps. Speed humps are not of what you would call kind of the old school speed humps, or what I know, like over by the Walmart development on the west side, where you know, they were very hard to go over. I mean, you'd almost have to go to 5-10 miles an hour to go over them. Speed bumps that we use on our residential streets, we don't have many of them, but this is one of them. Basically allows a motorist to drive 25 or less. But once you start driving faster than 25, then they become uncomfortable. And they're also designed to be friendly to emergency vehicles, and more specifically fire trucks and larger emergency vehicles, and public works operations style vehicles, garbage trucks, things like that, snow plows. So that was implemented as part of this. And of course, in order to do an evaluation, you have to evaluate the existing conditions, and then at the time, of course, you have to forecast the traffic because the development's not there. So there was a before and a forecasted after analysis completed. So we have the before information. So for example, Peter Street, we have those volumes from prior to development. We also do have some information on what the volumes are after. The speed bumps were put in, and we did do a traffic survey along that street. That is really about the extent, other than what I would consider routine 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. turning movement traffic counts at the signalized intersections. So as part of the request, I know Dan's University is on that list. That, I believe, has been counted since. We have the intersection of Clement, that's where the new signal went in, right here. I believe that's been counted. Sturgeon Bay and University Way, and then University. This is actually technically University and University. Very confusing, but we call it Riviera just because that was its name during the study and didn't have an official name. But so for sake of purposes of discussion, I'm going to continue to call it Riviera because it's, we don't want to call it University, but that's what it is. So we have these signals. I believe every one of them has been counted, and if not, as part of the request, staff would have no concerns or issues of collecting that information. So
Okay.
With all of that said, I see no reason why not to make a recommendation to refer this to staff for study to complete the after evaluation for traffic counts, and then bring that forward
Okay.
at a future meeting.
Motion to
Okay.
refer to staff.
It's been moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Very good. 6, initial request, consideration of possible action on the request of Alderman Scannell on behalf of Mike Hammer to remove the no parking 15-minute loading zone on the south side of Day Street between Jackson Street and Quincy Street.
Briefly, I had received some email communications from the Alder explaining that the area in question and the 15-minute loading is no longer needed. Mr. Mike Hammer happens to be in the gallery tonight. I think it probably sounded better coming from the requester on the reasons why the loading zone is no longer needed. So with that, I make a recommendation open the floor.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Been moved. Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Hammer, would you like to come forth?
Sure. They had placed no parking, loading zone signs in front of our building. I'm no longer an owner of the building. That changed hands July 1st now, but the current owner agrees also.
Okay.
I rent there now yet. At one time, the paper mill didn't have enough parking, or the paper mill workers parked in the street. and the street was full of cars every day early before we would come in. And at that time, many years ago, probably before my time maybe even, the owners of our building requested something be done, and they put these no parking zone, loading zone signs up. And that kept the paper mill parkers out from in front of the building, so the owners of the building could park in the front of the building there like that. At this time, there's no parking. The paper mills, I think, has less employees than they did at one time, and maybe more parking, and they don't park on the streets any longer. So we have no issue with that. What's happened, like I say, those signs have been there a long time. This year now, they were putting a ticket on my car for being parked in there. We've always parked between the signs, and that was the agreement, I guess, kind of at the time. And the second time they were coming to put tickets, so I had talked to the municipal judge, and he said to bring it to the alderman and see if we could remove those signs.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes
Thank you,
sense.
Mr. Hammer.
All right, thanks.
Motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Any further comments? Dave? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Hammer.
All right, thank you.
Oh, this won't go into effect until council.
Yeah, it has to go to the council first, right?
What's that? Oh, yeah, no, this is no different than any other. Just for your information, what we do with all parking regulations, whether we're removing or adding, they're all done on a 90-day trial. That is just to make sure we're working out any issues. Because oftentimes not everyone can attend the meeting that may want to speak on it or have some opinion on it. And to work out any bugs sometimes, let's just say a distance is incorrect and it needs to be adjusted, that kind of thing. So those do happen. Something like this, especially if the mill has ample parking as it's stated, which I believe, my guess is this is about as easy as they come, and you're not going to have any calls, complaints. The alder's not going to. Everything's going to be hunky-dory, and after 90 days, it actually becomes ordinance. Now, then, I can, though, take the signs down. As part of the trial, for the most part, right after this meeting, it'll be early this week, I'll already create the work order for our sign shop to have the signs removed. You may see the posts still in place, and we do that just in case something out of the ordinary happens, and it's much easier for us to just go slap a sign back up on an existing post than to have to put in new posts and call in Digger's Hotline and so forth. So you'll see the posts up there, so don't get alarmed. They will come down after the 90-day trial.
Be fine, sure.
Okay. Thank you. Number 7, consideration and possible action on the request of Alderman Johnson to address chronic complaints regarding speeding on 12th Avenue.
2 items on this. Mine first, there was some discussion at the last meeting relative to 12th Avenue becoming a bike lane or have bike lanes installed on it. As part of the safe walk and bike plan that was recently adopted by council, the answer is yes. So eventually, bike lanes will be installed on 12th Avenue. And as you may recall, that was actually good news because it does provide some lane narrowing and effectively should reduce some speeds. So that's staff's answer for the delay. I did receive a phone call from Alderman Johnson, and he had requested that this item be postponed another month. Still doing some of his groundwork.
Okay.
Motion to postpone.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Termination of trial periods. Do you want to take these en masse?
8 through 11, yes, they are all pertinent to the same location. These zones pertain to the Northland, or Hotel Northland, and involve the removal of some no parking on the north side of the street and creating a no parking 15-minute loading, which allows the customers and people staying at the hotel to go curbside, get their bags to the curb, allows for valet parking, etc. So it's been working actually very good, and I have not heard any negative feedback on the change. So that said,
Okay.
items 8 through 11 in mass, I recommend to move forward to adopt by ordinance.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve 8 through 11. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Is there any further business to come before the commission? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. There.